Abertura oficial do nosso dia de trabalho hoje, é um dia bastante intenso. A gente tem painéis aí, como o Demi mesmo já comentou, sobre os impactos da IA no trabalho, os impactos da IA na educação, os impactos da IA na própria web, né? Como isso está mudando a dinâmica e a economia da web também, e no desenvolvimento sustentável, que se linka com ações do plano do PBIA e com movimentos atuais também de infraestrutura e soberania. A gente está quase completando um ano. Eu acabei não me apresentando diretamente, mas eu sou Luiz Alexandre, conhecido como Tuca, já era uma confusão às vezes. Bom, estamos completando praticamente um ano do lançamento oficial. Mas como o Demi também falou, esse lançamento oficial, ele representou um site no ar e a compilação dos indicadores já disponíveis, que vieram através já de uma ação bastante cuidadosa, que já estava sendo feita pelo próprio NIC, pelos demais departamentos, CETIC, CEPTRO, né, destaco esses dois aí, na figura do Alexandre Barbosa, do Milton, do Paulo Custer e de toda a equipe desses dois departamentos, que, entre eles, e junto com um conjunto de parceiros, o CGE, que é ligado ao MCTI, né, do governo, o SEAD, que é a Fundação de Análise de Dados do Estado de São Paulo, o C4AI, que é um centro de IA aqui da USP. Fizemos essa parceria ainda com apoio internacional do IRCAI. O IRCAI é um instituto de pesquisa também em inteligência artificial da Eslovênia, tem participado bastante, inclusive estará presente hoje em alguns painéis. Então, isso deu já uma atração e um início desses dados que o Demi comentou. Então, sem me alongar, já muito feliz já por esse segundo ano, comemorando já esse segundo ano, eu gostaria de convidar aqui a doutora Vasilka, que ela é membro da Corte Europeia de Direitos Humanos, e também... Só um minuto, gente, que eu me perdi aqui. E também do International Law Association. A Vasilka ela é PhD, professora titular de Direito Internacional na Faculdade de Direito da Universidade de Ljubljana, na Eslovênia, e é juíza da Corte Europeia de Direitos Humanos, em Estrasburgo, e anteriormente atuou em diversos comitês de direitos humanos da ONU, e antes de assumir sua função judicial na Corte Europeia, ela liderou diversos projetos de pesquisa nas áreas de direito internacional e inteligência artificial, e também atua como presidente da filial eslovena do International Law Association. Então, convido aqui Vasilka, nossa keynote de hoje. Já te passo a palavra.
For what? I'm not using it.
Sorry. I'll put some water for you. Please, it is.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I have to start with two apologies. First, I will speak in English. I'll try to speak slowly so that if you're using interpretation, it will be intelligible. And the second apology is that I will speak for almost 40 minutes. This is what organizers asked me. So I congratulate you for being here this early morning and for surviving through my speech. It is a real honor to be here with all of you today, and I also want to begin by expressing my gratitude to the Brazilian Observatório of Artificial Intelligence, Mr. Demigechko, with whom I feel immediately connected, given that I learned he was born in Terst, or in Italian Trieste, which is where my last name comes from. And of course, Professor Tuca, Professors Cristina Godoy, Rafael Meira, João Paulo Veiga, with whom I have worked over the last year on the AI regulatory sandbox project here in Brazil, which has been a great pleasure for me. I'm sure that also OBIA's work embedded in Brazil's national AI strategy is a remarkable example of how multi-stakeholder initiatives can guide technology with responsibility and vision. Everything I will be saying today is, of course, in my personal capacity and does not represent or reflect any views of the European Court of Human Rights. So as someone who comes from the world of international law and human rights, I see initiatives like OBIA as also important democratic experiments, embodying something very precious, the conviction that discussions and decisions about the development and use of artificial intelligence should be shared and vigorously debated, and perhaps even more importantly, they must be owned by all relevant stakeholders and rights holders, from citizens, workers, businessmen, educators, researchers, and policymakers. There is some echo. I hope it doesn't disturb you when I speak. Okay, good. In the last decade, we can all agree that the artificial intelligence has become ubiquitous and has proven its revolutionary potential. It's everywhere around us, impacting our everyday lives, shaping our workplaces, schools, policies, also our personal relationships. Most importantly, however, it is also redefining power. Who has access to all information? Who benefits from automation? Who is being heard and who is also left behind? This is not just a technical shift. It is causing also a profound societal change of a social paradigm, impacting also the perception on human rights, dignity, and justice, and, I am firmly convinced, requiring a collective response to shape the future society we all want to live in. That is why I would like to frame today's conversation not only around the AI's capabilities, but around values, around the principles that international human rights law has articulated for decades: equality, dignity, freedom from fear, freedom from want, and more particularly, among others, freedoms of expression, access to education, right to work, and the right to healthy environment. These rights, when they were being drafted, were not drafted with algorithms in mind, but they should nevertheless offer us some compass in this new terrain. So I want to share some reflections on 4 domains that were suggested by the organizers where AI is transforming our societies: the labor market, education, sustainable development, and the web ecosystems shaped by AI agents. In each domain, I wish to highlight opportunities, risks, and human rights values at stake. I also invite you to reflect and engage in this debate at the end, as we know that the future we want will not be written by the machines, but by us all together. So let's move into the work domain. Work has, over time, always been more than just a paycheck we receive at the end or in the middle of the month. It's a source of dignity, of identity, of community. The right to work is also recognized as one of the fundamental human rights, tied to the idea that each person should have the opportunity to contribute meaningfully to society and to secure a decent living, closely connected also to the right to live with dignity. And yet, AI is transforming the labor market at a breathtaking pace. Across industries, we see algorithms screening resumes, chatbots conducting interviews, platforms assigning shifts, and predictive systems guiding decisions about hiring and dismissal. At first glance, this might seem efficient, because it reduces costs, it streamlines processes, eliminates to some extent human bias, but is efficient always also fair? When an algorithm decides who gets hired or who is dismissed, what does that mean for equality of opportunity? What does that mean for transparency? We already know that AI systems trained on biased data can reproduce and even magnify discrimination in the process. Perhaps some candidates are favored who come from majority groups, or some are penalized because of their unconventional career paths. Some might overlook women, minorities, people with disabilities. In other words, the technology meant to make recruitment more objective, but sometimes it can reinforce the inequalities it was meant to overcome. And this is not, of course, an abstract risk. It is already happening. There are cases where some companies need to abandon an AI recruitment tool when they realize that the system systematically downgrades resumes that include the word women, for example. And that is, of course, a chilling reminder of how easily biases hide in data and how quickly it can harm real people. But AI is not only changing who is hired, it's also changing what work looks like. Automation is reshaping tasks in logistics, finance, agriculture, healthcare, creative industries, weapons industry, among others. Jobs are being displaced and new jobs are emerging. And in the middle, millions of workers find themselves at risk of redundancy, facing the daunting challenge of reskilling. So we may ask ourselves, will artificial intelligence deepen inequality, or will it become a driver of social justice? The answer is not predetermined. It depends on the policies we design, the training programs we implement, the social protections we strengthen, and importantly, on how do we develop and interpret relevant legal frameworks protecting our fundamental rights. Brazil, like many countries, is also facing some challenges, and a significant part of the labor workforce is in informal sectors. So reskilling is not simply about offering online courses in machine learning or data science, but it is also about ensuring that all workers, from drivers to teachers, factory workers to farmers, have access to opportunities to adapt, to learn, and consequently thrive. And here lies a profound human rights dimension. The right to work is not only about access to jobs, it's about conditions of work. Safety, fairness, dignity are equally important. So is AI being used to intensify surveillance of workers, to measure their everyday keystroke, to predict the productivity minute by minute? Or is it used to enhance creativity, to free workers for more meaningful tasks? These are not small questions, and they go to the heart of what it is meant to live in a dignified life in the 21st century. So if I give one concrete example, in the platform economy, ride-sharing, food delivery, freelance services, algorithms already determine pay, routes, ratings, and workers often do not know what made a certain decision by the algorithm, nor do they have a possibility to contest it. So they are, in a way, managed by our invisible code. And this raises critical questions of transparency, accountability, and participation. From a human rights perspective, this is about more than wages, but really about the question whether workers have a say in how technology manages them. And can they challenge decisions that affect their livelihoods? This is where the multi-stakeholder approach like the one that is being discussed during this day and the coming days becomes crucial. Because protecting workers in the age era of AI is not only the responsibility of governments, nor only of companies. It requires a dialogue across sectors, participation from civil society, from unions, from academia. It requires exactly this kind of inclusive forum that is being built also right now here in Brazil. So, of course, AI is not only a threat. On the contrary, it also opens extraordinary opportunities for the labor market. It can help match skills with jobs more effectively. It can open doors for persons with disabilities through better accessibility tools. It can allow small businesses to reach new customers and new markets and create entirely new professions that we have not yet even imagined. But the key is choice. We must choose policies that ensure no one is left behind. We must invest in reskilling programs that are accessible and inclusive. We must choose to enforce labor standards that prevent algorithmic exploitation. And we must choose to see AI not as a destiny imposed on us, but as a tool to serve human dignity. So, for this part, I have one concluding question for you. When you think about the future of work, do you imagine a society where machines make us redundant? Or one that I would personally opt for, where machines empower us to focus on what makes us human? So the answer, of course, depends on the path we take in the future, and I'm firmly convinced whether we keep human rights at the center of this technological revolution. Let us move on now to education. Education is where we gain not only knowledge and skills, but also values, not only facts, but also how to live together in society. It's an international human rights law development that brought also to the recognition of a right to education as a fundamental human right. And today, education is undergoing a profound transformation under the influence of AI. We see AI systems that can provide personalized tutoring, adapting to each student's pace and style of learning. We see tools that can help teachers manage administrative tasks, freeing them to focus on mentoring and creativity. We see language models that can translate, summarize, and even generate learning material in real time. For countries where populations face inequalities in access to quality education, these technologies hold an immense promise. Children in rural villages with limited access to teachers, but with an AI tutor that can answer most of their questions, and perhaps sometimes even better than a human teacher, or teachers in an overcrowded classrooms who can use AI to identify which students need more support and which are ready for a more advanced challenges. All of these are very powerful possibilities. They point to a future where education is not limited by geography, wealth, or class size. And yet, we must be also candid about the challenges. First, there is digital divide. Access to AI tools depends on connectivity, devices, infrastructure. If only the wealthiest schools or the most privileged families can benefit, then AI is in fact risking deepening or not narrowing educational inequalities. Technology in such cases would not democratize learning, but would in fact stratify it further. Second, there are ethical concerns. If students rely on AI-generated answers, what happens to critical thinking? If essays, which we professors know too well, are written by chatbots, How do we preserve originality, creativity, and also responsibility? If teachers outsource grading to AI, how do we ensure fairness, empathy, and human judgment? Third, there are also privacy questions involved. Vast amount of data are collected about learning habits, cognitive strengths, emotional states. So the question is, who owns this data? How it is protected? Could it be misused for commercial purposes or even to label and track students in ways that harm their future opportunities? As a judge, I'm acutely aware that rights are not abstractions, but lived realities. The right to education is not fulfilled simply by putting children in classrooms or by giving them access to apps. It's fulfilled when education is accessible, acceptable, adaptable, and of the necessary quality. That means education must empower students, not reduce them to data points. Only this will enhance their future opportunities. If I give some concrete illustration, in some universities around the world, AI is being used to predict which students are at a risk of dropping out based on attendance, grades, or online activity. In principle, this can allow timely support and intervention, but in practice, if used uncritically, it can also stigmatize students, creating self-fulfilling prophecies. Imagine being labeled at risk simply because you work part-time to support your family and cannot attend every lecture. The system sees risk, but it does not see the resilience. Perhaps even more devastating are the pending cases before the US courts, where families accuse AI chatbots of contributing to their children's self-harm or suicide because some children started using AI first for educational purposes, but then built harmful emotional attachments to these AI chatbots. These examples show why education cannot be reduced to metrics. Numbers can never capture the full human story. By embedding AI in education within a multi-stakeholder framework, however, we all have a choice to voice our concerns and contribute to decisions on how these technologies are being deployed. Education, I am sure we all agree, is too precious to be left to algorithms alone. And in fact, from a human rights perspective, this is also about democracy. Because schools and universities are not only places of instruction, but also places where individuals are being formed. If AI tools are shaping what we read, how we write, how we think, then they are also shaping the very foundations of democratic participation. So we must ensure that these AI tools do so in ways that nurture autonomy, curiosity, creativity, pluralism, and responsibility. So there is a temptation, of course, that the AI one day might replace teachers altogether. But I would argue the opposite. The more technology we have, the more we will need human educators. Because, as I said, AI can transmit information, but we also need a modeling of our values, encouraging empathy, and fostering debate. A language model can correct grammar, but it cannot mentor a young mind through doubt and discovery. So the question really is how AI will empower teachers to provide them with tools to personalize learning and free the children's time for creativity. And what about the students themselves? What will they learn if education is left only to AI tools? Who will learn them patience, perseverance, the joy of struggling with a problem before reaching a solution? So I would say that one of the greatest challenges of using artificial intelligence in the education is how to ensure that the use of technology responsibly supports critical thinking and not replacing it. To encourage collaboration in classrooms and not isolation that might lead to self-harm and suicides, as I mentioned. To deepen learning, not to flatten it. And finally, the technology should help cultivate not only intelligence, but with the help of human educators, also wisdom. So, going to the next domain, if work and education are the foundations of dignity, then the environment is the stage on which we all depend for our human lives to unfold. Without a healthy planet and safe climate, there can be no labor workplaces, no classrooms, no democracy. The right to live in safe, clean, and sustainable environment is increasingly recognized not only by states, regional courts, human rights bodies, the UN General Assembly, but also approximately a month ago now, the United Nations International Court of Justice, in its latest advisory opinion that I am convinced will have a profound impact on future developments. This human right protects us individually, but also safeguards the future of humanity as a whole. And AI, in fact, has a paradoxical role to play in this domain. On the one hand, it can be a powerful ally in the struggle for sustainability because it can process satellite imagery to monitor developments on our planet. It can optimize energy use in cities and factories, reducing emissions and costs. It can help farmers predict rainfall, manage crops more efficiently, reduce the use of pesticides, model climate scenarios with unprecedented precision, allowing governments to prepare for floods, droughts, and hurricanes. For a country like Brazil, home to the Amazon rainforest, a crucial regulator of the global climate, these applications are not only useful, they are existential. And the AI could strengthen Brazil's ability to protect its ecosystems, to support sustainable agriculture, and to lead the world in green innovation. And yet, on the other hand, AI is itself resource hungry. Training large models requires enormous amounts of energy and water. Data centers consume electricity on a scale that rivals entire cities. Devices require rare minerals extracted in ways that often devastate local environments. So here lies the paradox. We turn to AI to fight climate change, but AI itself contributes to the problem. This is, however, not a reason to abandon AI, but a reason to govern it wisely. We need transparency about the environmental costs of AI systems. We need innovation in green computing, more efficient chips, renewable power data centers, sustainable supply chains, and above all, we need to ensure that the benefits of AI for sustainability outweigh its footprint. There is also a deeper justice dimension. Environmental degradation and climate change do not affect everyone equally. They hit the poorest hardest. And if AI technologies are concentrated in the hands of a few wealthy countries and corporations, then their environmental costs will be borne by the many, while their benefits are enjoyed by the few. In international law, we often speak of intergenerational justice, the idea that we have duties not only to each other, but also to future generations. AI brings this into sharp focus. If we deploy these technologies recklessly, consuming resources without limits, we may solve today's problems while creating even greater problems for our children. But if we use AI wisely, we can leave them a healthier planet and hopefully a more resilient society. In recent years, researchers have used AI, for example, to track illegal mining and deforestation. And by analyzing satellite data, they can detect early signs of destruction and alert authorities before the damage spreads. And this is a case where AI becomes not a threat to the forest, but its guardian. But in another scenario, where in order to run ever more powerful AI systems, we build huge data centers that consume vast amounts of electricity powered by fossil fuels, we may have a different set of consequences. And what if water needed for cooling those centers is diverted from local communities who are already struggling with scarcity of water? In that case, AI would become part of the problem it claims to solve. And this duality is why sustainability must be built into the DNA of AI governance. It cannot be an afterthought, but a part of how we design, deploy, and regulate these systems from the start. And here again, I would say Brazil is crucial with its extraordinary biodiversity, its renewable energy potential, and its commitment to align AI with sustainable development goals. Brazil can show the world that technological innovation and environmental stewardship are not contradictions, but instead partners. If the Industrial Revolution taught us how to harness energy and the digital revolution taught us how to harness information, then the AI revolution must teach us how to harness both responsibly, not at the expense of our planet, but in harmony with it. So I would like to invite you to think about the next question. When we talk about AI and climate change, are we imagining technologies that consume the Earth, or instead technologies that help us heal it? Because this choice is in fact not an abstract one. It will influence the policies we adopt, investments we prioritize, innovations we encourage, and also sandboxes for testing the AI we are developing. And it will be made in multi-stakeholder spaces like this one, where all the stakeholders and rights holders will have a voice. So I would say sustainability is not a luxury, but rather a condition of possibility for all other rights. So let's move on now to the other aspect of our modern life, the web ecosystem. The internet, once envisioned as a free and open space for human expression, is increasingly shaped by AI. AI agents, these are algorithms that curate content, recommend videos, generate text, and even stimulate human conversations, are now integral to how we experience the digital world. These agents are not neutral. They influence what we see, what we read, and even what we believe. They can amplify knowledge, creativity, and collaboration, but also, and perhaps sometimes even more, misinformation, bias, and polarization. For citizens, this is a profound human rights concern. Freedom of expression, access to information, privacy, right to form one's own opinions are all mediated in part by AI systems. When algorithms determine which news reaches us, which voices are amplified and which are silenced, the very foundations of democracy are at stake. In Brazil and all around the world, AI agents are changing how users search for content, make decisions, interact socially, reshaping the market for news and media, influencing elections, affecting public discourse. But there is also another layer. These systems also reshape the responsibilities of governments, companies, and citizens. Governments must ensure transparency and accountability. Companies must design AI with ethical principles, avoiding harm and respecting human rights. And citizens, all of us, we must develop digital literacy, critically evaluating the information we encounter in these spaces. And initiatives like OBIA can also act as a bridge between technology and society, producing indicators, analyzing trends, fostering informed debate. By understanding AI agents' impact on the web ecosystem, policies that balance innovation with protection, growth with responsibility, can be crafted. Consider the challenge of content recommendation systems. They are designed to maximize engagement, and in doing so, they push sensationalist or polarizing content because it keeps users clicking. AI drives attention, not understanding. The result can be echo chambers, radicalization, fragmented societies. Yet, they can also be harnessed for good if, of course, they prioritize credible sources, diverse perspectives, and civic engagement. And if AI tools empower users to explore knowledge, question assumptions, and participate actively in democratic life. The choice lies in governance. The AI itself is not inherently good or bad. It's a reflection of the values we embed in it and in the environment in which AI operates. If we prioritize short-term profit or unexamined convenience, we risk creating a digital ecosystem that undermines freedom, equality, and social cohesion. If we embed human rights, ethics, and public interest into the design of AI systems, and also in the monitoring of its operationalization, we can cultivate a web that enhances knowledge, empathy, and community. Finally, let us remember that the web is not only a space of information, but a space of interaction. AI agents are becoming our companions, assistants, co-creators, which also raises profound ethical questions of how to ensure accountability when decisions are made by algorithms. How to preserve human autonomy if the questions are shaped by algorithms. How to protect privacy when our every click is recorded, analyzed, and sometimes also monetized. All of these are very urgent questions that demand collaboration among various stakeholders, and a multi-stakeholder governance like the one that is being promoted by OBIA is in fact really essential. It's not an option anymore, but an urgency. It ensures that AI in the web ecosystem respects rights, promotes inclusion, and strengthens democratic societies. The lesson is clear. AI agents in the digital space are mirrors of our choices, amplifying the values we encode into them. And if we really wish for a fair, resilient, and just society, we must ensure that our digital infrastructure, the algorithms, platforms, AI agents reflect those values. And I do agree with those who stress that the web is a human commons, and its future depends on our decisions we are making today. So coming to a conclusion, it's important to stress that AI is no longer a distant technology of the future. As I said, it's shaping our everyday lives, how we learn, how we interact, how we inhabit the world around us. The effects: labor market, transforming jobs, our skills, reshaping education, creating new opportunities, new ethical dilemmas, also affecting our environment, offering some tools to promote sustainability, but also at the same time posing serious challenges to our resources. In each of these areas, AI represents both a promise and a peril. The promise is enormous: more efficient, inclusive, and innovative societies, solutions to pressing global challenges, unprecedented tools for human creativity and well-being. But the peril is equally real: inequality, bias, environmental harm, and threats to democracy and human rights. As a professor of international law and as a judge at the Human Rights Court, I have seen how laws and principles shape societies. Human rights are not abstract ideals, but guardrails that guide us through complexity of our societies, ensuring that progress benefits everyone and not just a privileged few. So, how do we protect our dignity in the age of algorithms? How do we ensure that AI powering hiring processes, education, information access are fair? How do we safeguard the rights of the most vulnerable while pursuing innovation? I believe that the answer lies in global governance. And initiatives like OBIA's in this process are critical for us to debate, experiment, set standards, ethical imperatives. And I have one concrete idea I want to share with you today. And of course, I would appreciate also the further debate on it. Current developments in AI governance reveal a fragmented and compartmentalized approach. However, given the characteristics of the AI, in my view, it requires a multinational, multi-stakeholder, multidisciplinary, and multi- or intergenerational governance. So, what if an international AI platform is to be established as a permanent, inclusive forum for consultations, sharing of best practices, discussions of challenges, and global decision-making? Not as a typical international organization with its headquarters in one of the states, but as a designated online space, collectively owned and governed by all the relevant stakeholders, may be hosted by the NIC.br domain. Perhaps it could approximate the tripartite structure of the International Labour Organization and envisage representation of governmental actors, states and international organizations, of business representatives, and of civil society organizations, including scientists and academia. One of its functions could be to coordinate and help operate a global AI sandbox, and perhaps establish a transboundary consortium of experts from different disciplines that could advise and guide developments in different sectors with the required expertise and precaution and in real time. Although, at first at least, being of a recommendatory nature, such a permanent international AI platform could contribute to a more responsible development and use embedded in a global consensus on human values that need to underlie all AI systems. But of course, governance alone is not enough. We need to educate ourselves and others, and we need to innovate not only with intelligence, but with conscience. It's on us to determine whether AI becomes a force for empowerment or a source of harm. So I recommend to embrace AI, study it carefully, innovate with it, but always hold it accountable. I wish for an AI to reflect our highest values, not our shortcuts, as in the end, we know that AI will be only as good as the society it serves. So my profound hope is that in the era of AI, these technologies are to be designed, developed, and used in a way to improve rather than endanger our societies, present and future. Thank you for your attention.
Would you please sit down?
Here.
Muito obrigado, Vasilka, por todas essas reflexões. Eu acho que traz uma realidade bastante concreta, premente, para o nosso momento atual. Acho que desde que a IA generativa surgiu, que toda essa pauta e essa discussão sobre ética, sobre as questões de como aplicar a IA, virou uma coisa popular, trouxe à tona também uma série de discussões de princípios, de valores da sociedade, como ela trouxe muito bem aqui, né? Acho que nenhuma moeda vem sem as duas faces. E a hora que a gente olha o nosso cofrinho de moedas aqui social, tem muitas moedas, o que traz uma situação extremamente complexa. E para situações complexas que a gente vive hoje em dia, com essa velocidade, com a nova tecnologia e tudo, não tem soluções simples, né? As soluções são complexas, são multissetoriais, são multidisciplinares e viraram internacionais. Não existe também hoje uma solução local, quando a gente fala de internet, quando a gente fala de inteligência artificial. Então, eu aprecio muito aqui os pontos todos, né, deixa uma série de reflexões para a gente. E, bom, Vasilka, convido a gente a tirar uma foto aqui e passarmos já para a próxima etapa. Muito obrigado novamente.